Hello and welcome to Season 2, Week 1 of Prep Phase League here on YouTube. I am Septimus, joined here by Siege Lord, and we're going to be going over a couple great rounds today. Of course, first off, it's going to be Rude versus Cookie Cutters, followed shortly by Trash versus Rude. And of course, these are a new team we'll be following, as well as some of the oldies but goodies from Season 1. And Siege Lord here, new to the team. Say hello to everybody.
Howdy, folks. Yeah, I'm pretty excited that we're able to follow Rude for both of their games today because it means we can actually establish a relationship and get to know how they like to play and what they tend to do.
Absolutely. And of course, I am really looking forward to see how Cookie Cutters performs as well. They did make it into the tournament last season. Of course, unfortunately, we're not able to make it very far due to the fact that they were a little unsure as to whether or not they were going to need a sub at the last moment. And I think that kind of threw their game off just a little bit. But they did get knocked out in that first round, but they are back again, have been holding some huge, and when I say huge, I'm talking 20, 30 people tryouts to see if they can't fill their ranks up with some more quality players.
They do seem to be using the core gaggle here this time around. If we're talking about people that are regulars, those are the ones that they seem to be running this time around. Although, yeah, no, like I say, Remy, Cookie, the two core members that you seem to see all of the players are playing today.
And of course, it looks like they do have Why Pretend in there as well. I believe that's one of their new pickups from the tryouts.
Little bummed not to see Knox there. We were just chatting him up
Yes.
about how he manages to make a go of it. Definitely a strong player too.
So definitely looking forward to seeing how everybody performs today. And Rude versus Cookie Cutter should definitely be a good matchup. Of course, in Rude we've got Skid Row and Iajoki, who are some pretty veteran players, as well as Earthrat, who I see in the pub games quite a bit actually.
Yeah, I've mostly seen Earthrat kicking around, doing all sorts of stuff. I think regularly Lockwood is what I tend to see him on.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, 1 second, looks like they are getting a little antsy here. So let's go ahead and get this kind of up and running for them.
Speaking about Rude, though, if I remember correctly about Skid Row, he likes to be a support player, or at least he was in the early part of season one. He was with Overpowered at the time, I believe, correct?
That I'm not familiar with. I don't know that he was with Outplayed at all, but I know he was.
Or yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
Outplayed.
I know he was definitely with a team earlier on, but I do think they fell apart after getting a rough run or two in. So that can always be hard on the morale when, especially in the newer leagues, things aren't going your way and you're getting, just kind of walked on a little bit. So, but it does look like
Yeah,
he's come back with a new grouping, which I think, just from looking at some of the names on the team, should be doing a lot better.
yeah. Back with a vengeance. I seem to recall that he was also support for the most part, except more in the aggressive kinds of support. Not necessarily using Helio because he's always so contested, but he liked to run the Might Tether with Cork.
Oh yeah, and that's
So you can expect the
yeah, it's definitely an underused ability too. I've seen a couple players kind of popping that up a little more recently to great effect, especially just as a pocket healer following around. One of the firepowers who tends to try and stay back a little more to keep him safe, as well as mighting him up every single turn.
yeah. And on the other side of the spectrum, over on Cookie's team, Remni also tends to go for the more unconventional picks. He seems to enjoy playing Rampart and occasionally brings out Oz, despite not being particularly competitive these days.
Well, yeah, and that's also, I think, just a little bit of what's kind of fun about cookie cutters is they're not going to go for certain picks just because those are the I don't know, the industry standard, I suppose you could call it. They're going to go for the
Mhm.
ones that they play a lot in pub matches because, you know, like Oz, for example, he's an incredibly powerful character. The reason a lot of players don't go for him is A, because they don't necessarily understand him, and B, because he's not a consistent character. It could go one way or the other very easily, and with poor positioning, it could tend to make you just 100% worthless for a particular match.
Yeah, like the entire game of Atlas Reactor definitely revolves around positioning, and I don't think that there's any Lancer that requires good positioning more than Oz does.
Yeah, and that's, a couple other, like we saw Pup come up yesterday, who's not necessarily a favorite pick for the league. We do see him come out here and there, but once again, he's just one of those characters who has issues with consistency.
Yeah, if he's not there, basically if he's not within melee range, he can't do a whole heck of a lot half the time. Though, like Titus, he does have the short cooldown dash.
Yeah, and
But
my personal things, like two of my favorite firepowers are just one of those unloved characters here in the league. I like L and I like Pup. And for some reason or another, nobody can seem to kind of lock down the fact that, you just can't make it consistent unless you know the character really well. And nobody really wants to give them a chance and just make that one of those their main and take it all the way. So I'm still waiting on that to happen.
you must have been pretty pumped last night then, because if I recall, 2 OP in their first game ran L
I haven't had a
to
chance to
some
go back
success.
and take a look at those, but if that's the case, I am definitely excited about watching some of those replays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I got wind of. I thought that was pretty interesting as well. This again requires very good positioning, although maybe to be fair, requires more mispositioning on the opposing team for L to be maximized.
Well, for
Getting in those.
yeah, to me, the real secret of L is just being able to hit more than one player every turn. So,
Mhm.
if you can do that, you're playing L the way she's supposed to be played. She's not necessarily a focus down character. She's just supposed to whittle down the enemy team two or more at a time. So let's see. Looks like they are working on getting some map picking done here. Like we might have a little bit of issue going on.
First game jitters, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Not quite having everything as sorted as they thought they did. They say new teams, just shaking it out. Well, not new teams, but new team to the league, shaking out how exactly needs to go down.
Just throw some info
We
out
all
here.
know. Sure, we all know that in the, let's say, the S tier and the tier 1 teams, they very much prioritize Helio and Rask. But there's an interesting setup in the last game last night where Rask and Helio got through to like the second, third picks. So with these newer teams with mixed success, what do you think we would expect to see being their contested picks? Or do you, as you were saying at the start of the broadcast, do you think they're just going to play their own game, just get whatever comp they wanted, not rely on power picks at all?
Well, I think when it comes to the bands here, there's kind of, once again, I'll just throw out the term industry standard, where we're gonna look and see Rask, Helio, or Lockwood, going for one of the top tier of each class as what the other team is going to try and knock out. Although we do see some kind of wonky pick ban tactics where, for example, say the other team goes ahead and does a Helio ban, well, you're going to go ahead and ban another support as well. And if they don't pick that support right off the bat, you can go ahead and run a two support composition and basically leave the enemy team without any kind of support choice at all. So I'd like to see things like that come out. I don't know if we'll see it come out in a match such as this with cookie cutters. Oh, looks like we've got things going here. But yeah, to finish that up, don't know if we'll be seeing anything like that coming out here, as some of the teams that I know have done the research like that for pick banning aren't playing today. Although we will be seeing trash a little bit later.
Two support comps in competitive play is definitely a high skill cap proposition. Pretty bold strategy too, in case you get the support that your support player is a little bit weaker on.
Yeah, it can be a little rough, but the fact that with that particular tactic, the fact that you're locking the enemy team out of picking a support as well, can be pretty nasty all around. So it looks like we're getting some picks and bans going here. Let's jump on there. It did have a little bit of website issue there. So looks like Cookie Cutters has picked their ban of Rask.
Fair enough. Makes sense. Can be hard for teams of any caliber to deal with.
And of course, the Lockwood ban following up pretty quick there. Pretty standard picks and bans. All right.
Mm-hmm. So can expect a Helio at least at some point in the draft. Helio and Asana tend to be the two most contested at these points of time. But again, Cookie Cutters doesn't mind running the Rampart. So maybe if they manage to snake Gray and or Gremo, they might stick with their Rampart, since those are the two main counters that can still do damage to him with his wall up.
Got it. And looks like they're having to just manually pick a map at home team. Rude is going for Cloud Spire on there. And of course, looks like we got Asana and Gray being picked so far. You know, once again, some pretty standard picks right off the bat, especially with Lockwood and Rask being the bans for this game. Unfortunately, we don't have a timer to go by here, so we're just hoping that the players use their best judgment and how quickly they pick their lancers that they're going to be using.
Right. So this means that, wow, why am I messing up the names? The Rude team, they're picking second, right? Because they chose their their
Yeah,
location. So
yeah,
that means that
they sh-
Lava Cookie's team, the Cookie Cutters, will be able to choose on their first pick.
yeah, Rude
They
should
might be
be
the ones that are getting forced.
yeah, Rude should be selecting their second lancer now. Looks like there's probably a little deliberation over it. And it looks like they're going for that Helio.
They did go with Helio.
They
Awesome.
did. So that's going to leave, you know, probably an Aurora pick for Cookie Cutters, though I doubt they will pick that here soon. Because now that Rude has already picked their support, they're gonna probably just go ahead and take their two firepowers at this point. And it looks like they did go ahead and pick their Aurora. Just wanted to make sure Rude didn't snatch it away from them to throw a wrench in their works there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm always surprised when people go for the same role that was just picked. You would think that they would want to go elsewhere, but it might just be, as you said, wanting to confirm that they get exactly the champion that they want, exactly the lancer that they want,
Well, yeah, because
not risking anything.
that's one of those things where if Rude really wanted to kind of mess with them, they could have gone for, like we were speaking of, a two support composition. You know, because really, when you're taking a look at the picks and bans, the high contention is going to be for the who gets what firepower and who gets what support, because there's plenty of really good firepowers out there to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
So of course some
Depending on what. Sorry, go ahead.
oh I was going to say, you know, that some people could of course argue that, you know, depending on what firepowers they personally think are better.
There's definitely an element of deciding what works best within what you're trying to do. If you're running like at the start of last season, there was a lot of ghosting or like hide and seek sort of games. So in those sorts of games, you'd rather Nyx and Gray, for example. Whereas if you're just doing the big all-out brawls, you might prioritize Lockwood and Blackburn with AOE or even L, obviously.
And it looks like we got Cookie Cutters picking that Zuki here. So that will definitely. We don't see a whole lot of Zuki, unfortunately, for some reason. So it looks like Cookie Cutters getting ready to pick their fourth here.
They're doing this on the site, correct?
They are, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and
gotcha.
Grimolitions is the fourth pick for him. So,
Yeah, there
with
we go. Thought so.
and Titus being the last pick for Rue to kind of round him out for a fairly standard composition on Rude, Titus, Gray, Celeste, and Helio, and a little bit of a, I guess, a skirmish group, I would say, for Cookie Cutters. They've got Asana, Zuki, Grimo, and then Aurora as their healer. So definitely an interesting composition for Cookie Cutters. Like we were saying, they like to keep things interesting.
Yeah, Celeste is another one that I actually, for some reason, missed my mind or skipped in my mind. She's can be super annoying on any place, particularly Cloudspire. If they don't get the might right away, she can get both of them on turn two, depending on her positioning. But that can make her positioning a little bit predictable if that's what they end up planning on doing. Though it hasn't been a standard strategy, just a YOLO Q strategy more often than not.
Yeah, and with Cookie Cutters picking a little bit more of a like a skirmish group, I'm really curious to see how they're going to play that out on a map as small as Cloudspire. It provides them some benefits, but some disadvantages as well. Whereas if they get cornered, they're not going to be able to deal with all the damage that Root is going to be able to put out, especially with a Helio there able to throw out like his ultimate, for example, that'll hit multiple of them at once if they get caught in the wrong spot. But you've got Grimo, who can basically tag half the map at any point in time with the small map area, and then of course Zuki, whose ultimate can also do the same thing. So this should be pretty interesting to see how they play this out.
Cookies are running basically a lockdown comp in that can expect to see either Asana root or Gremo knockback somebody into the dead center of a Zuki big one. That's going to be the most common play we can expect, the most common combo that we can expect coming out for this comp. And basically, it's a good way to get early flashes out of someone like Helio.
Yeah, we might even be able to see, a couple combos in there with the Aurora heal, knocking folks back in the Grimo mines. Whereas, on the other team, not very trap heavy at all, not a whole lot of combos that could go on there, except for maybe Helio and either Celeste or Titus, being able to deliver that black hole.
Gotcha.
So it looks like we do have the game starting up here. Let's see who we've got playing who.
With all the jokes surrounding Titus as a non-viable frontliner, I think he doesn't necessarily need to be shown a little bit of respect. Those weekends can be a huge hassle for Zuki or Celeste even, since they're or not Celeste. I'm sorry, Zuki and Gremo because they deal out so much damage with the ultimates.
Well, and here's the thing with Titus. Like, I'm a frontliner player. That's just the class of character that I like to play the most. And I went when they had the 30 wins for the different emblems. Of course, one of the ones I played was Titus to get him all the way up to 30 wins. After doing that, I kind of developed a newfound respect for Titus. So I kind of saw where Pepper was coming from a little bit with his Titus love, but I think he's not as bad as everybody thinks he is. He has a
I'm not.
lot of really great potential. A lot of it is kind of circumstantial, though.
Mm-hmm. He's no one is gonna make the claim that he's S tier along with Rask or even up there with Asana, but I think he does have to be respected as a frontliner still.
All right, and
Oh,
here we
alrighty.
go. So looks like we've got Cookie Cutters as the red team and Rude as the blue team here, with everybody kind of starting to move towards the center area, though it does look like Cookie Cutters is going to be going a little bit more south, while Rude heading a little more north.
And there's that positioning from Celeste that I was talking about, making sure that she's in position to get the enemy might if Cookie Cutters did not go for it.
So it
But they
does,
did.
yeah, it
So
looks like Lava Cookie went and sat right on top of that, so probably going to be getting, one to the face, since Lava Cookie is the only person who is visible at the moment.
yep, Titus is visible on the other side, and not quite Celeste. No, I thought so. But
Looks like just a couple pokes there. Earthrat, of course, snatching up the might from their side. The Grey Drone going out, dealing 12 to Lava Cookie, who does a swipe just in case any dashes were coming her way. And then got a 10 heal from Aurora, and just a couple mines being thrown out just to try and catch someone like Titus there, running right through one, catching 10 damage plus a weaken.
yep, a good weekend there. Always ideal to be able to make sure that at least one member is consistently weakened by mines, and they're getting that so far on Titus. So if Titus uses his dash this turn, it's going to do far less damage than it would normally, but he does still have his dagger, which would work like a Zuki bomb and will do damage later on that won't be affected by the weaken necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good point to make. You throw that dagger out, if no one pops it this turn, you can still get full damage on it next turn. And of course, there's that wall of pain going out. The dagger, as predicted, hitting Rimney. And of course, Asana dashing right through that wall to hit Titus. And of course, there we have Aurora taking a little damage from that drone. Guinness throwing out a rocket to deal 25 damage. And another 22 coming on to Titus from the Grimo.
So in this particular case, since the majority of Rude has eyes on Lava Cookie on this Asana, since she's scrambled, she can't use her shield, so it makes sense for this to be a turn where they try to burst her down a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think we'll probably see that here, especially unless they can get her to just go ahead and force the use of that catalyst, which probably wouldn't be this wise so early in the game. We got a shield going onto Titus there. Looks like it did deal out a little bit of might to him. Big one going to lay down to cut off the enemy team, and there's that dash doing 31 plus another 31, 62 onto Rimney with that dagger. Splort coming out from Wiper 10 to kind of block that corner off and throwing out two mines, neither of them hitting anybody. Probably looking just to deal out that weaken. 34 on the Lava Cookie from Gray, and Guinness shooting a rocket out to not hit anybody, and Lava Cookie doing that swipe to hit Spiros.
So now this turn, it's not nearly as good of a proposition for Asana to be focused, but Rude doesn't have eyes really on anybody else. And in this particular case, also Titus is in a little bit of trouble because he's so deep and he doesn't have much damage mitigation at all. So we could expect for his shout to come out this time around, trying to get the weaken on as many people as possible. But it looks like within range, he's only going to be able to hit two at most.
And it does look like he does have the healing on his shout, so that will provide a little bit of mitigation. Only 5 it appears, though. And of course, we got Earthrat doing the dash, trying to get that black hole somewhere. I'm not sure what they were planning with that. And of course, looks like they were just trying to get out of that big bomb that was coming down. Mine's going out to 22 on Skiros, followed by a 26 and another 16, bringing him down almost over 60 points. 16 damage going on to Lava Cookie, with another 20 on the Skiros from that box of death, who then returns 26 to Lava Cookie from his main attack.
I would expect a dash here. Oh no, my mistake. Does not quite have it up. He used it only 2 turns ago. So Titus is in a pretty rough state. Healer's going to have to whip out all his tricks in order to make sure that Titus stays alive on this one.
Yeah.
But again, they don't have a lot of eyes. This Asana is the only one that Rude is really able to focus on, while Titus can't survive the amount of damage that Asana can.
Yeah, I
his
think
kit is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the blue team really need to kind of move in here if they want to try and take advantage of the situation where this team is being completely focused on the Skiros, who's taken 55 damage there plus another no damage there. Looks like just some mines being laid out to try and get weakened. 12 being thrown on the lava cookie plus another 34 from Celeste, followed by 22. A 4-man hit
Ooh,
coming out from Helio.
that was actually pretty good.
That
Yeah.
was excellent. And then that black hole just going to waste over there off to the side.
So now this will be interesting, depending on where exactly this Titus wants to go. As far as some people might not necessarily know this, but when people are contesting the same buff, whoever inputs their commands first is the one that will get the buff. So, for example, if both Aurora and Titus chose to walk onto that square at the same time, whoever inputted the command first would end up getting that health.
Yeah, and I'm actually
And
really,
he just charges.
yeah, I'm really surprised to see that Titus is still standing after being surrounded by 4 enemies that last turn. And looks like we got about 45 damage being dealt onto Gray there, followed by Skid Row doing 22 and 12 to Rimney and Lava Cookie. 26 on the Lava Cookie, who then takes a death from the smoke all the way across the field. That is first blood for Rude.
Yeah, Cookie's probably a little bit bummed that Aurora's ult did not come out one turn sooner in order to heal her. But coming out now, gonna try to get as much damage down as possible. But Helio also has his ult going now, and so can expect Titus to be sticking around for the long haul at this point.
Yeah, and then Betty's wishing he had not used his dash at this point because now he's in kind of a rough spot. Of course, it looks like he is getting the ultimate from Skid Row, so he is quite well protected. We have Gray doing a little dash out to get out of the way, and of course a Splort going down from Wiper 10 just to block off some of that area with a sticky bomb going onto Gray there, and Helio getting the sticky bomb. And of course, Rimney putting out that ultimate, getting 20 and 26 from both the Helio ultimate and Titus. And of course, a knockback from Skid Row. Not quite making it into the Splort, but definitely putting him out of position.
This Aurora's not in the best position herself, though, at this point. Can expect a fair bit of damage coming in onto her. While the rest of Cookie Cutters is looping around to try to get their own health. Probably going to go to Zuki if she ends up continuing down that path. But this Gray's going to have to be a little bit careful too. They have an idea of where she is since she dashed, and she can only dash to her throne.
But of course, then we got Skiros getting a black hole for just a little bit more on the shield. Skid Row taking 22 from Grimo, and both of them taking 32 from Zuki. And we got Gray throwing the drone over there to do a little bit of damage to Rimney, just 12, who's then taking another 22 and 26, followed by another 26. They are really capitalizing on the fact that we have Aurora stuck out here all on her own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely good target priority going on in that case. But the Zuki ult, the mighted Zuki ult, can potentially come out at any point now. Just got to definitely watch out where she is keeping her positioning. Good body block positioning from Asana, but if Titus decides to do his ult, doesn't matter, it'll go straight through her. And actually, no, I'm completely mistaken. Helio and Titus both will ignore the body blocking, but it was still a good effort for positioning if Celeste had been following.
Well, yeah, I'm afraid, though, the Lava Cookie may have just kind of walked into a whole lot of pain here, though. Of course, we do see her throwing up that shield to try and do a little bit of damage back and mitigate as much as possible, but they're both going to capture a weak. Rimney's going to just catalyst right out of there. Probably the best idea he's had because, man, that's just a killing field right there. 32 going on to Skid Row, and then we have Gray's ultimate being dropped down there to cut off any kind of movement through the center. There is Titus's ultimate dealing 40 to Lava Cookie, but taking a little bit of damage back himself, followed by another 16 from the swipe. And of course, that black hole keeping Lava Cookie in place as there was nowhere to throw her.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the way Rude has been utilizing their CC. They seem to be using multiple CC at the same time, so they're not getting maximum value for it. Sometimes it's just good to hold off on certain abilities depending on what you're wanting to do. Again, new team, not completely surprised, but they might have also been trying to do certain combos and they weren't able to get them off in time. It's a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, and they're probably still working on. A lot of these teams have been practicing their communication for quite some time, so some of these new teams we will see things like that. Lava Cookie doing a dash towards Skid Row, who does in fact just Catalyst out of the way with just a few little bits of health left. Iyojoki taking some damage there from Zuki, but looks like they've second-winded. And of course, there goes Earthrat throwing out that ultimate, leaving White Pretend with 17 health, who then responds in turn, dealing out about 90 damage and taking down, believe it was Skid Row there, who had catalysted trying to get to safety.
So Titus's dash is up again. Can potentially expect him to try to snag this last health from him again. If he's going to be able to do that, then that means once again there's not going to be much healing coming in over on Root's side, or other way around. Oh, and he even manages to get him down.
Yeah, Skiro's jumping in, killing White Pretend and leaving Rimney with only 22 health. Of course, White Pretend's going to take a shot out, but not hit anybody. And of course, Rimney throwing down that box, saving White Pretend with 1 health and bringing themselves up to 30. A Rocket going out to leave Iyojoki with only 29 health and a Brain Juice on Rimney, trying to get that big heal back as fast as possible.
I really have to improve resin someday.
So in this particular case, now Earthrat is in a great position in order to finish off these two, depending on Catalyst usage. But unfortunately, probably not going to be able to do it. It might take a lot of damage in return. Helio's not in position to be able to help out the most right yet, and Gray also, again, just way on the other side of the map.
And Lava Cookie with a great ultimate coming in there to protect the rest of her team. I don't know if she'll be dealing any damage with that positioning, but she does get a shield on both of them. White Pretend, of course, just dashing out. Once again, no damage dealt by that, but that Zuki ultimate is going to be dealing tremendous damage to both Earthrat and Skiros. And of course, there goes Skiros down. Just a ton of overkill, and Earthrat reduced to only half health after that volley.
This positioning might be a little bit rough. We can have a big one coming in from Gremo to hit both Earthrat and Skid Row, whereas Aurora is still alive and can heal herself, or if she wants to help out the Zuki and the duel that's coming up with this Gray. Basically, good positioning all around over for our Cookie Cutters right now with their 2-1 lead.
And here comes a black hole going on to Earthrat just to give a little bit of shields as much as they can. And of course, a big one going out from Guinness, landing directly on top of Earthrat, who then just catalysts out. Lava Cookie doing a swipe just to see if they might catch anybody, and Iyojoki catching 32 and responding with 17 back to Zuki, that little duel you were talking about. And there's that big one, keeping Skid Row in the outer ring of that big bomb coming down there.
Yeah, the intention there was obviously for it to also hit Earthrat to make sure that they were stuck, that Earthrat was stuck in the center square, and then she'd have to flash out next turn. But flashed out last turn, same result ultimately for them. And now now that Tyson's respawned, should be able to get in the fight and help out a little bit. Though Asana is probably doing a little bit more work than he is right now, just with where her positioning is.
Oh, and Skiros using that dash but not hitting anybody. That's now going to be a 5-turn cooldown. He won't be able to dash again for the rest of the game. Sticky Bomb's going off on Guinness, leaving them with only 4 health. Of course, Skid Row took 20 the turn before. Earthrat missing White Pretend with a double, who's then going to throw out 22 to Earthrat and Skid Row. And Rimney using the ultimate, but only catching Lava and Skid Row.
Nice.
Guinness then getting finished off by Skid Row with a hammer. And a little extra just in case coming out from that gray drone. And the black hole catching nobody, the brain juice before Zuki falls. Tied up game, incredibly close here. This is going very well, but really could go either way at this point.
Yep, once again, they do have Aurora in a position where she could get isolated right quick, depending on how the walls and the terrain ends up getting locked down. Gray doesn't have her ultimate up quite yet, so she's not able to
Nano magic.
like just brute force that in. But can we expect that to be what's attempted?
And of course, we got Lava Cookie getting out of dodge there. Remney appears to be the focus here, grabbing a wall to cut off. Why Pretend getting missed again by Earthrat, who then responds to deal 22. That three-person sticky bomb doing 30 to everybody. Skid Row biting the dust there with a box of doom. And of course, Aurora then walking right through that wall, tying it up again 3-3.
Yep, but the Zuki spawn is pretty brutal in this particular case, and Asana is still in good position to be able to lock down these last two firepower freelancers against Rude.
So of course, Why Pretend is caught out a little bit. Thankfully, Titus doesn't have that dash since he wasn't able to catch anybody with it. Gray getting right out of dodge. Of course, Earthrat stuck behind there, decides to use some smoke to kind of cut off vision. And Why Pretend throwing out that Sploor to prevent anybody from getting too close, and then throwing out some mines, hopefully to catch anybody. Skiro is just a pixel out of range, not able to do any damage, while Earthrat gets taken down between Asana and Zuki, putting Cookie Cutters in the lead, 4-3.
As long as Gray manages to stay out of everybody's sight, they might be able to pull it back for the 2 kills. If one being this Gremo, and well, unfortunately, it's full health on everybody else on the Cookie Cutter side. So it will be a bit of an uphill battle, that's for sure.
And it does look like Gray has the ultimate now, so that will be interesting to see whether or not they use it this turn to try and catch Why Pretend, who apparently saw that as well and decided just a catalyst to try and get out of there. Iujoki may have wasted this. Let's see where it goes. And he catches the Lava Cookie instead, doing 44 damage, mited.
2 turns left.
And it's like the start of the game again, though. The only people that Rude sees is the Asana, and you don't really want to be focusing Asana, especially when she has all of her stuff up, particularly her shield. So this can be another rough turn. All Cookie Cutters need to do is survive. They only have 2 more turns that they gotta stick around, and
So when Why
it's definitely
Pretend,
an easy thing to do.
and Why Pretend just got brought up nearly to 2/3 health with that heal, and of course Skid Row now protecting Gray with his ultimate for a couple turns here. Guinness throwing out the big one, landing right dead center on top of Gray, and Lava Cookie using that catalyst to get out of there. But here comes Why Pretend with his Grimolition's ultimate, doing only 65 damage split between Titus and Helio. Although Lava Cookie taking immense amounts of damage there between a Gray drone and a dagger, bringing her down quite low. Guinness not able to reach anybody with that rocket, so not a lot of damage being dealt out that turn, despite the fact that an ultimate was used.
If somehow they're able to get enough damage to finish off either this Asana or the Gremo, then we can expect this to be going to a turn 21-23. But still not quite convinced that that's within the cards this time around.
So it looks like Lava Cookie throwing on that shield plus an unstoppable. Looks like she's expecting some sort of crowd control this turn. We have Earthrat using that dash just to move a little bit closer. Skiros being rooted plus 30 damage, and Why Pretend throwing out some mines, only catching Skid Row for 22. Here comes the ultimate, dealing 82 damage to 3 members of the enemy team, and of course Lava Cookie taking another 34 plus another 12, only left with 6 health. The big one dealing 25 to Iujoki, but nobody's going to be able to deal enough damage to finish anybody off, and that was the last round. Cookie Cutters takes it 4-3.
Yeah, 6 short. That must feel bad.
Wow, so that was an amazing round between Cookie Cutters, who was in several matches the last season, ended up being one of the top 6 tournament seeds, and a brand new team, Rude, bringing in and showing a very strong force against Cookie Cutters.
It was definitely an unexpected Titus build as well, just doing absolutely everything for mitigation or regeneration. So I saw he had heal on not only his primary, but also, as you said, on his shout. So that was definitely interesting. I don't think that's the usual build, is it?
That is kind of becoming a standard because it uh,
Yeah.
it it takes what, Titus being not so self-sustainable and actually makes him to where he can consistently heal himself almost every turn, if not for just 5, 10, 15 points. So it's a very good build, which keeps him alive a lot longer than he should. And I do just
He's
want to
still more on.
yeah, I do.
Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
I just wanted to point out some of the damage we saw in this game coming
Mhm.
out from Cookie Cutters was just incredible. Zuki dealing 631 damage, and Grimo, as Why Pretend, doing 503. The two top damage both on one team.
Yeah, it's surprising even that Titus only died the one time with the amount of damage that he took.
Yeah,
But when you get
680.
when you get the Helio ult on you though, that does massively increase your sustainability, that's for sure. Even with the healing or mitigation build, however you'd like to describe it for Titus, you can still see again in the stats that his healing or damage mitigation is nowhere near what comes from Asana. But at the same time, the damage output that he has, like Asana, comes nowhere close.
All right, so with those performances that you saw today, and of course the stat numbers we're looking at here, who would you have to say would be the MVP for this game in particular?
For this particular one, ooh, that is actually hard to say. Because I'm not necessarily the best, or I don't necessarily believe that the stats always tell the best story, but I do think that Zuki consistently had extremely good positioning, and that's why she was able to get that 631 damage. It wasn't necessarily with any big ults or anything, it was just regularly hitting 2, sometimes 3 people with her basic attack. I think 3 happened once or twice.
Yeah, and
So,
stayed mited quite often throughout the game, able to
yep.
deal, 32 instead of just 22 with the
Mhm.
extra shrapnel, I believe it's mod. So just very good performance from Zuki and every other player all around. That was an incredibly close match.
I did like at the start Asana's zoning though. Now that I remember at the very start of the match where consistently she was the only one that could be targeted
Yeah,
by Rude. That was good positional play. Which again, as I said before we even got in the game, is one of the most important things in Atlas Reactor.
all right, it looks like we are waiting for the next game to start. Let's see here, get the website back up.
But I would definitely expect a similar pick and ban thing because it looked like both teams did get something resembling what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, Cookie Cutters, of course, they're actually playing with characters that they normally play with. Don't believe I've seen them pick Grimo too often, but that may have been a new addition because of Why Pretend. And of course, Rude being a completely new team, they did come through with a pretty standard composition, with the exception, of course, of Titus, who, as we were talking about, isn't necessarily a bad choice.
Not as much of a bad choice as everyone seems to think so, that's for sure. But again, some top tier teams would prefer to go the three firepower comp. Although, from my understanding, that also heavily relies on having Gray. Granted, they did have Gray, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily something you'd want to promote as opposed to the firepower or as opposed to the frontliner. Frontliner is just so much easier to work with. You know what the role is, what he's going to be doing, how he's going to be working, and even if you haven't been practicing very long as a team, that fundamental understanding is there.
Yeah, Looks like they are going to be going on Flyaway Freighter this time around. We are just getting the
That's
sights.
Flyway, or sorry, that's Cookie Cutters that chose Flyway, right? That time around?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because it always swaps back and forth to make sure. Because there's only 2 games in a series for this league. One team is home one game, and then the other team the other time.
All right.
But
So,
I would like to see a little bit more contesting that Asana pick instead of just letting them snag it like they did last time.
all
I
right.
think that exact same play style that the Titus had, except on Asana, would probably be the clincher to finish it off.
Well, and just the fact that I think there was a little bit of damage avoidance there in the end, keeping it such a close game. I think both teams were
Mhm.
doing really well choosing when and when not to use their catalyst. Although I did see some uh, what I had kind of thought were, crazy dashes in there. Uh, but then again, they may have been expecting damage that just didn't end up coming. So it was kind of a surprise to see a couple of them in there, but in the end, everybody was avoiding damage, although sometimes they were kind of caught out with a dash, without a dash rather, and in a bad place.
Oh, I know the dash you're thinking of. I thought originally you were referring to the dash for health, but you mean more the getting out of the big one dashes when they're only in the outer ring, right? The Celeste
Yeah, there
dashes,
was
for
there was
example.
that, and Celeste also did a dash a little bit later on when there was just about nobody around her. I'm guessing she was just trying to get a little bit closer to the battle for the next turn, but you could have done that just as easily by walking there.
Yeah. It's important to notice that some teams, or not even teams, some players prioritize keeping their dash cooldowns over the health and vice versa. Some people think that making sure that they win the race to certain power ups is worth burning a cooldown. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the right or wrong tactical decision. It's just different players and different teams value different resources. So that's something to keep an eye out for when you're watching your favorite teams play, to see if they, like this Titus, had preferred to use the dash to get the health, where even though that put his cooldown to a 5-turn one instead of a 2-turn, he valued the survivability in this particular case, as well as the denial.
God, it looks like we've got our picks and bans coming in here. So we've got Rask and
Oh,
Gray uh, being banned right off the bat. Of course, Gray as a ban. A little bit different there because, of course, Root is going to pick Lockwood up right away.
that's actually what I'd like to see. I'm not saying that Root is a particularly new team or weak team as in experience wise, but as I said, Earthrat in YOLO Q definitely plays a lot of Lockwood, and not only is he very user friendly, just from a mechanic standpoint, but he's extremely strong considering as a lancer and as one of the considering how his skill cap is, he still does lots of damage and brings lots and lots to the table.
All right, man, they are picking really quickly here. These guys know exactly what they want. So Root already with their full team. They really like that Titus, picking him again. Lockwood, Aurora, Nyx, and Titus. That is a very handy composition right there. Whereas we've got Asana, Celeste, and Dr. Finn. Very strong first 3 picks from Cookie Cutters. They could almost go with anybody as their fourth, and that's still a very strong team.
So Gray, oh right, Gray was
Yeah, Gray was the band there.
right.
And of course, Suki as their final pick. So I think Cookie Cutters is one of the teams that likes to pick Zuki very often, despite the fact that she's not considered one of the better firepower picks in the league. But they have always seemed to play her with pretty good results.
Mm-hmm. So I liked this drafting phase a little bit more. At least they saved Titus for the last pick since they prioritized Lockwood over the Asana. So since they knew, and because they actually did take us on the first pick over on Cookie Cutters, Rude not bothering to pick up their frontliner until the end makes a little bit more sense in the drafting phase.
Right, and
We didn't
I don't
see.
I don't think they were necessarily worried about the other team picking Titus as well, because
Yeah,
like we've
exactly.
stated, he's not really a top tier pick, unless you're talking the Pepper Titan.
Yeah, the we didn't see a whole heck of a lot. Actually, I don't think we saw it ever, except for that Gremo combo about 2/3 of the way through the game. The trying to get the lockdown combined with the Zuki big one. But again, there's a lot of tools to make that happen this time around. We got Isana Root and the Finn Ultimate are both good at repositioning people into big ones where they do not want to be. Granted, the Finn Ultimate won't be coming in until at least turn 8, turn 6, or turn 8, turn 9. But still, yeah, I would definitely say it's something you should keep an eye out for. We obviously established that it is something that they go for a little bit, even though they can't lock it down necessarily every single time. But when it does work, it does huge damage. I would say it's a low risk, pretty high reward play. Can
Yeah,
expect it a lot.
and what I am a little surprised to see is with Rude being kind of trap heavy on their team. They've got both Lockwood traps, Nyx traps. They don't really have any kind of way to deliver people through the traps. There's no pushbacks. There's no pulls. With the exception of Aurora's heal, which is only used for adjacent squares and only knocks back one square past that. They don't have a
Yeah.
lot of ways. They're going to have to expect the enemy team to walk through their traps. So I hope they're very good at placing those with a good prediction.
And it's harder to make sure you get all those down on flyaway as well, just because of the sheer
Right,
size of the map.
exactly. Whereas on Cookie Cutters, same kind of thing. They've got a couple different really good, delivery systems. Dr. Finn, actually, I guess Dr. Finn's like the main one. Um, being able to pull back into a big one or even a Celeste trap, could prove to be a pretty good combo. But we're not seeing a whole lot of, Lancer synergy going on here.
Yeah, over for Rude. Or sorry, I keep saying yeah. The over on the Rude camp, it does seem like when you're in the game, the mindset can kind of betray you a little bit because they might not necessarily see how well they did. They just see it as a loss. So now they might have moved just over to the comfort picks, right? They're not necessarily a lot of synergy there, but they're all super comfortable with the Lancers, and they're hoping to pull out a win with just their comfort.
Yeah, and that's, while you may not have the synergy that a lot of people look for in these teams, sometimes just being able to play on a Lancer you're very, very familiar with can make all the difference, as opposed to
Yeah.
trying to play something you're only okay with just to get a possible combo off.
Mission starting.
And of course, here we
Finally
go.
getting in.
All right.
Okay, so
So
can expect Celeste positioning again in order to get this might, since this time it's a lot easier to grab
Yeah, it
compared to
is.
last
It
time.
is worth noting though that there is only one might on this map as opposed to Cloudspire, which we just saw, which does have two mites. And it looks like we've got blue team, which is going to be Rude, coming in towards a kind of a traditional start there, moving just kind of everybody right towards the middle, whereas Cookie Cutter's moving a little bit more to the south there.
Yeah, there's no vision on anybody yet, so they don't necessarily know for sure that excuse me, that Rude is going for this extremely traditional start. That's not necessarily a problem. As I said, there's no vision, so unless they make the predict, which there's no reason for them to necessarily.
So, and of course, it looks like Nick's way back there, going ahead and hitting his Aviz to move in. We got Guinness snatching that mite off the field as Celeste do. And looks like everybody has found each other. Nick's right in the thick of it down there in that bush. But still, no vision on him because he does have his invisible on.
Yep, so this is an interesting dilemma coming in over from Cookie Cutters because Lockwood doesn't have cover against everybody, but again, they can just target the Aurora, even though she is in cover.
So then we got Earthrat expecting that damage, throwing that shield up. And of course, Lava Cookie getting a shield of 40 of her own coming out from Rimney. And a trap being placed from Nyx, hopefully to catch one or possibly two, depending on the mod. A big one coming in from Zuki, and of course Titus dashing in to catch Guinness, while we have a spray and pray going out to catch both Guinness and Rimney for 30. And then of course Lava Cookie locking Skid Row in place, while White Pretend taunts a 32 damage going out on the Skid Row, bringing them down to less than half health. And of course, Guinness, with that slow, is actually stuck in the inner ring of the big one.
I wonder if if Skid Row and Aurora's gonna make this read that there's a trap underneath them, because Zuki didn't use the big one on him, and it would make sense for the big one to have been on somebody who is getting rooted, right?
Oh yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And of course, Guinness running right through that Skid Row, getting out of town using their catalyst really early. So Lava Cookie swipes at nothing. Nyx taking a shot, doing 17 cover damage to Finn. Well, we've got Titus missing because of the dash. And of course, 20 on both Earthrat and Skyros from the outer ring of that big one. Of course, Skyros then catching some cluster bombs there, while taking 22 from the Eels from downtown.
Yeah, Aurora's going to be in a fair bit of trouble regularly now. She doesn't have that catalyst. She's going to be in a bit of trouble. Going to see, depending on if she tries to run into the alleyway or back at the spawn point, because you know she's going to be going for a health pack one way or another right away. And Celeste is in a little bit of trouble since she used her dash to move over there. Might be using a catalyst, and if she doesn't, she can expect to get bursted down here.
And I'd like to point out that Rude has actually done a great job of splitting cookie cutters up at this point. We've got White Pretend all the way on the other side, along with their one support. And of course, damage being going out against Titus here. A swipe coming in from Lava Cookie to deal 22 to Skid Row. He then takes 34 from Nyx. Skiro's doing 26, taking 5 health. And 34 coming in to finish Celeste off. First blood going to Rude. Once again, like I was saying, they split the enemy team up quite well. And then took advantage of it.
That was extremely good turn coming in for Rude that time around, getting that first blood. Unfortunately, even though Aurora was able to successfully peel off Lava Cookie, dash is still up for Asana. Can expect to get right back in on that Aurora. So traps coming in. Excuse me, sorry.
So that trap did 34 to Lava Cookie, who then did 25 to Skid Row. We also had Skiros doing a dash, doing 25 to Finn. 34 coming out from Earthrat. And of course, Rimney not hitting anybody because of that dash. And looks like Joki has those eels, is revealed for this turn, but they do die because he is out of range of any teammates.
So Titus, this is definitely a duel that Titus can win over the long haul, especially with his sustain build. And if nothing else, it'll be burning down a lot of cooldowns over on the support team, on the support side of Finn.
And there goes Lava Cookie putting that shield up, while Rimney does a heal to himself, both expecting some damage this turn. Lava Cookie then getting weakened, while Earthrat grabs 10 health from that Paralaser, both taking 22 damage from Zuki, followed by another 16 from Asana, who heals herself for 10. 34 going out from Nyx, and 36 coming from Earthrat. Asana just taking loads of damage here.
Yeah, so now Titus has decided to disengage, figures his team needs a little bit more help dealing with this Asana and Zuki, which is not necessarily a bad call. But Zuki is, again, as we said last time, Zuki's positioning is so very important, and it paid off in the last turn with that double hit on her basic, and now on turn 8, already up to an ultimate.
And there we go, Nyx going invisible, Skid Row doing a heal on themselves, that big 40. Why Pretend throwing out his ultimate, catching Skiros and Nyx. And 38 going out to Asana. And here comes the taunt. Doing 51 to both Skiros and Iojoki, who's then going to catch... Skiro's going to catch another 38. And of course, Lava Cookie healing themselves for 5 and doing 22 damage to Skid Row, who then, with that heal, knocks Lava Cookie back into place, trapping them there.
Yeah, this turn is going to be a hard call, a hard read, definitely for Rude, because they saw that Asana has ultimate up. Finn is in position. He has shield up, and not only that, there's potential of Celeste killing somebody off with her own ultimate.
So it looks like Lava Cookie throwing that shield up, expecting the damage. Also using their ultimate to add some extra shields to themselves and to Rimney. Of course, it looks like Iojoki has an ultimate in themselves. Skiro getting out of dodge with the dash. White Pretend throwing out the cluster bomb to catch Earthrat. And here comes that ultimate 62 to both Guinness and Lava Cookie, who used their ultimate to jump right into it. Skid Row only taking 11 from Finn, but then taking 28 from Celeste across the field, taking that death.
That's quite interesting, actually. Now, probably, depending on this positioning, it does not really look like they're going to be able to burst down this Asana now that Finn is right there helping her out. And despite Titus's dash, it's a pretty rough looking position with Celeste still being well within range of sniping him down.
Well, I think the person really in the worst spot here is going to be Iojoki. Nick stuck in that corner with the enemy team right around him. Of course, some traps getting thrown out to try and prevent them from doing anything aggressive. And he's going to, of course, throw out that AoE to catch them both, but Lava Cookie with all the shields not going to take any actual damage from that.
Fairly confident that Nick's movement was a misclick, and as well as Lockwood not moving may have been a bit of a misclick, but doesn't look like he'll get punished this time around.
Yeah.
And with the Aurora spawn, be able to get some heals in, not the worst accident that could have happened for them.
And I do like what Guinness has done here. He's moved into position. He's not necessarily, doesn't know where Titus is, but is going to be denying that health from him.
Whatever it takes.
Of course, Guinness going to catch a dagger for that trouble. Bomb coming down, catching no one at all, but there goes the shot, also missing. Yeah, it looks like Nick's got caught out in the open there, gonna get 10 health, but no one's gonna be able to catch him, and there goes that health and energize, both being denied by Guinness, while Titus moves on top of the health, but not able to do anything other than possibly attack Guinness there. Not sure if they can even reach.
Yeah, Nyx is so low, but he hasn't been out of position, so that's kind of what you can expect from the sniper. Not too worried about it, although now that Titus is seeing where he is, can expect him go down in some capacity.
And Iojoki catching that big 40 heal. Titus trying to get any health they can, getting 5 from the shout, but then taking 22 from the dash. And of course, Rimney not catching anyone, was just hoping to grab an invisible Nyx, I assume. Skiros missing completely because of the dash, so Guinness has saved himself from that additional dagger damage.
He might be okay. He's definitely out of vision, and depending on the guess that comes in from Celeste, he might be able to make it out still. Whereas on the rest of the team, it's not really a whole lot of action quite yet. Although this Asana passing by Lockwood has got vision down on Lockwood at this point, and the broken bush means that Nyx is also seeing.
And there comes that dash doing 25 to Nyx. Lockwood just getting out of the way. Rimney again not hitting anybody with that spray. White Pretend doing a miss as well. And of course there is that box of death. Missing lots of misses this turn, but one catches 22 onto Titus, taking him out of the game.
So now this Nyx is exactly not where he wants to be. He's getting chased down by this Asana in one form or another. He's going to have to figure out a way to disengage in some capacity. Lockwood, even though he dashed last time, he's got to get the rounds down range onto somebody at this point. They're a little bit behind. They only got 7 turns left, and they got to catch up.
Nick's taking 22 after going invis, followed by another 22, leaving him with 1 health. Skid Row coming here with the ultimate.
Oh, yeah. He
Gonna
wasn't
heal him back up and do 25 to Lava, who's then gonna take an additional 38 plus 34, taking them down. Iyajoki still surviving and catching 8, walking through the box of doom.
Waste the opportunity.
Okay, I was mistaken. What can I say? They got him.
Just an excellent play there from all 3 of those players, using their individual, synergies to kind of catch each other, keep Nyx alive.
Aurora, unfortunately, a little bit of miscommunication, is not anywhere near the team, not able to support, not able to get any healing down. So she has to do her best with the disruption on the enemy team while she's out of position.
And of course, Skiros dashing in to help her out, hitting Rimney for 25, Earthrat taking 22, and here comes the ultimate, catching both Earthrat and Iyajoki for 22. Iyajoki somehow still alive after all that damage he's taken these past 2 turns.
Yep, that was actually really good. That weekend might have actually meant the difference here. Weekend plus the healing is keeping this Nyx alive, albeit extremely barely, but it's getting the job done. And Titus is exactly where he wants to be if he's able to just rearrange where he is, get a good ult down onto Finn. Might be able to squeak out the lead that they're looking for.
A gift for a special someone.
Alright, looks like we got the double dagger going out on Rimney and Why Pretend, while Iyajoki takes full advantage of it, dealing damage to both of them for an additional 50. And here comes the sticky bombs, catching Skid Row and Skiros, and then followed by the smoke, finally taking Nyx down to put Cookie Cutters in the lead 3-2. With 3 turns remaining, can Rude bring it back?
4 turns left.
This turn would hurt traditionally. However, I'm not sure if Rude is aware, but all the dashes or flashes are up over on Cookie Cutter's side. So there might be a lot of whiffed ults coming in here if they choose to ult.
No one can save you now.
It looks like they will at least get 15 health from that shout. A big one going up. And of course, that ultimate completely wasted because of all the catalysts going off there. These sticky bombs going off for 30 damage to each one of those. And another ultimate hitting only Zuki over there in the corner.
So Zuki's looking like she's in a little bit of a rough place right now, but again, she does still have her ultimate, and she might not even, she does still have her flash, but she also has her ultimate that she might just try to get as much damage downrange as possible to make sure that they manage to extend this lead out.
So yeah, definitely going to be a brawl here. So we got Skid throwing 30 on themselves. Rimney using that Catalyst shield finally, as well as throwing another 40 on themselves, expecting to be the target. There is that ultimate catching 3 members of the enemy team. Of course, 2 dash out. Titus doing 25 to Why Pretend. And Skid Row just going to take the damage. Lava Cookie locking Skid down, as well as dealing 24 and 60 damage going on the Skid Row, bringing him down to 70, then taking another 50 from Celeste's ultimate, leaving them with 28 health after a little healing from the Box of Doom. Nyx all the way across the map, attacking Why Pretend to tie it up.
But now, the Aurora for the 4th kill and probably the game win. She has nowhere to go. She has no flashes, no nothing. It's going to have to, if she chooses to, paralyze her. She's got a weaken on that. That might be her best bet. But again, she only has 29 health. Not sure if it's going to be enough to keep her alive.
Yeah, let's see how it works out for her. There it is, the Paralaser as expected. And of course, Earthrat throwing a trap in there, hoping to catch somebody moving in aggressively. There's that Nyx ultimate dealing 50 to both of them, trying to set them up for the next round where they might be able to tie it back up. Skid Row going down with 32 damage, and of course Skiros looks like he's just going to be doing a follow. Lava Cookie taking 35 on the way out.
One turn left.
Yeah, this is at it. Unfortunately, there's dashes are up. Asana's shield, dash, and ultimate is up. Finn is nowhere near getting killed by anybody at this point. Valiant effort, but quite frankly, Cookie Cutters will manage to take this one as well.
Yeah, it looks like the GGs are being thrown out. They do know it is over at this point.
The sturgeon is in.
It was tight though. That 18-19 turn point. It was looking like Rude might be able to bring it back. Just
Yeah, that was
a little bit too little.
I really got to give them props for being a brand new team coming in here against the veteran team. Really putting up an excellent showing against them. It really could have gone either way. Cookie Cutters really just kind of eked their way through to a win on both those matches.
A win's a win though.
Feet.
Close only counts on the hand grenades and horseshoes. So, but yeah, Nyx bringing in the most damage this time around, as to be expected. High firepower champion like that.
So of course Zuki
Finn
right
doing
behind
work.
at 5'10".
Getting 2 ultimates out will do that. That's for sure. Although no, that's a lie. That second one missed. That second one missed completely. Nope, hit Aurora. Yes, but still, huge damage coming out from both of them. It's good to see it that at least one was on either team this time around as opposed to last time.
So,
I
yeah.
may also have to renege on what I said last game about Titus being a better damage dealer than Asana, because this time around Asana out damaged and out healed him.
Yeah, and that's, also just a matter of positioning like we were talking about earlier. Titus found himself running away for part of that, while Asana never really had to do any retreat action there. So it could have easily been either way if Titus had been in the fight just a little bit more.
I feel like Lockwood may have been a little bit too passive this time around compared to last game.
Yeah, it's
But
not often
I
you see
definitely
a
wouldn't.
yeah, it's not often you see a Lockwood with only 379 damage dealt in some of these tournament games.
And I only actively recall the one spray and pray, whereas usually you'd want to try to manipulate the field a bit so you can at least get 2 regularly, like off cooldown.
And the fact that he
wasn't in the cards this time
completely missed his ultimate, the only ultimate he used
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole game, completely missed it, was a real big hit to his numbers.
Yeah, that would have been game changing. But again, that's why you hold flashes. They managed to successfully get out of everything and got punished for it, because he also held on to that ultimate for a very, very long time. I don't want to stick blame on him at all. It was just one of the aspects that it's always the millions and millions of little things that add up to a win or a loss, right? So
Absolutely. Well, it was definitely one of the things you just got to, let me see here.
again, though, the Zuki just always hitting somebody almost every turn, except for that 3-turn stretch around round 12 where they just had no idea where each other was. Well, they knew where each other was, but they couldn't get exact eyes on each other. And outside of that, Zuki always hitting somebody somehow. That was, again, very noticeable.
Yeah, definitely. So we are actually going to take a short break here, probably only about 5 minutes or so, and we will be right back with Trash versus Rude. Very excited to see Trash coming back to the league. Of course, I'm sure their performance will be exactly what we expect it to be. Going up against Rude, the folks we just saw going up against Cookie Cutters, so I can't wait to see how they perform against another seasoned team coming out of last season. So we will be back here shortly. Once again, I am Septimus, this is Siege Lord, and we'll be back with more Season 2, Week 1 of Prep Phase.